Hey super coders, Mr. Wagner here. We are about to begin on pong3 where we are going to do some drawing. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what I have up here right now is pong2. So I'm going to do a file save as, give us a pong3 and hit save. By the way, I'll be putting, I have these, pong1, pong2, pong3, the actual code on the website. On the website where you watch these videos. So you can copy and paste, but I encourage you to actually type the code because I think you're going to learn a lot better that way. But if you get stuck and you can't quite figure out what's going on, you can copy and paste and keep up with what's going on here. Okay, so let's begin. Way back like in pong2 or maybe, shoot, I don't know where it was, pong1, we talked about tuples, okay? And I actually have a tuple right here on line 18. I have parenthesis and then two things separated by a comma and then another parenthesis. Okay, so let's just real quick, we'll talk about a tuple. And a tuple is basically just sort of an ordered list of something. So it starts with a parenthesis, and then you have, X, and then maybe a Y, and a Z, and a Q. It's basically a list of numbers that have a parenthesis around them. Okay, so that's all, and they can be used. Python allows you to use those in various places, and Pygame kind of requires you to use them for a lot of things, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, we talked about variables as being like a place to store a number, okay? I'm going to show you a special type of variable, and that's called a constant, okay? And constants are meant to be like variables that never change, okay? So like, the biggest constant out there is probably pi. Everybody knows pi is 3.14159, right? Okay, so if I created a variable called pi, I would say pi equals 3.1414, okay? No big deal, okay? But in the case of Pong, or in the case of what I'm trying to show you right now, I'm going to create some constants for different colors that can be used for the screen color or the ball color or the net color or, whatever colors, okay? So let's start with the constant white, okay? And we're going to say white equals, and then parenthesis, and we're going to say 255, 255, 255, and another parenthesis, okay? Basically, you got a parenthesis, and you have a red, and then a green, and then a blue component. Because on computers, or on colors of light, is if you stick different varying amounts of red, green, and blue, you can create any color in the world, okay? And that works well with computer screens. Basically, any of these numbers, in the case of white, it's 255, 255, 255, okay? But these numbers can be anything as long as they're anywhere between 0 and 255, okay? So between 0 and 255, you could put these colors in. And I encourage you fully to play around with colors because that makes it a lot of fun, okay? But we're going to go ahead and create this constant called white, and then we're going to say red equals, and that's 255, 0, comma, 0, and black. Equals 0, comma, 0, comma, 0. Okay. So white, red, and black. And white, red, and black. And also, I want you to notice that these variables, I basically capitalized them, okay? Now, it turns out that Python itself does not have a constant like other languages do. Everything's sort of a variable. But all the Python programmers basically decided that if it's all capitals, it's a constant. So this is more of a, I don't know, like a guideline or something. But if you have constants, make them all capitals. It'll make yours and my life a lot easier. Okay? So there we go. Those are constants. Now you're like, well, that's great, but we need to really use them. Okay? And you're right. We need to use them. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to go inside this game loop. Okay, and we're going to enter in a command, and we are going to say screen.fill, and then I'm going to put a parenthesis, and I'm going to say white, just like that. Okay, and I want you to notice that where I have that screen is only tabbed over 1, okay? Because I want it at the same, what I say level going to, going to the right there is over just 1. Okay, so we're going to run that. Let's see, run module. Okay, run. And it's still black. So what should we do? Well, typically what I would do if I couldn't figure out what was going on is I'd Google it just like anybody else, but I'll tell you what the secret is. Basically, what we have to do is we have to update the display. And the way you do that is pygame.display.update parentheses. If you don't put the parentheses there, it's not going to work. And I'm going to leave that right there because that pygame display.update kind of needs to be the last thing of that loop. Okay, so we're going to hit run. And look at that. It is now white. Everybody see that? Pretty cool, right? Okay. Screen.fill white. And then we update it. Okay. So very good. We got that going on. And, just to be clear, if I were to type in red here, because remember red is 25500. If I hit run, okay, it's red. There we go. I'll see if I can get an answer to that. Figure that one out a bit. Okay, so screen fill white. We hit run. Oops, didn't run. And we have a white screen and we hit close and then it goes away. Okay, so let's draw a few, let me show you a few different drawing commands. And they are this. The first thing we're going to try drawing is the ball. Okay, we're going to put a little ball on the screen. And that command is pygame.draw.circle. And then notice all of this stuff in yellow. Okay, this tells me a lot of stuff in programming, but it probably doesn't tell you much. So just follow along. We're going to say screen, and then comma the color. We're going to say red. And then the center is actually a tuple corresponding to an X and a Y coordinate. Okay, so I'll talk about X and Y. I'll probably break out the screen and show you what X and Y is. But the first X is 100 and the second X is 100, or the second 100 is the Y coordinate. And then the radius we're going to say is 10. We're going to make the ball 10 pixels. And then we're going to say 5 because that is the width of it. So if I go to that, so that's my command to draw a circle, and hit run. And there's my little dot. Now, you know, there's things you can play with. So say if I made this 40, see, now it's a lot bigger, okay? Or let's change that back to 10, and let's set this to like 10. See what that does. Run. Okay, so now that dot's filled in. Okay, I'm gonna leave that at 5. Okay, but anyway, you know, you get the idea. You know, there's nothing saying that you can't change these commands and see what it does. Okay, you're not going to break anything, so that's good. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to draw the net down the screen. So pygame.draw dot rect, okay, because the net is actually a rectangle and the surface is the screen, and we are going to make the net black, remember, all caps, and then the rectangle is actually a tuple with, how should I explain this? The X and Y of the upper right hand corner, and then the width and the height, okay? So it's 4 numbers, the X, Y of where to begin, how wide and how tall. Okay, so let's see if we fill those numbers in. The X coordinate is how far over, okay? Now our window is at 800, so let's go ahead and make that 400, meaning half of that 800. And then our Y coordinate is 0 because we're at the very top. And then our width, we're going to make that 10. And then our height is actually 600, right? 600, right? Okay. And then we need a second parenthesis there, okay? So we're going to hit run module, hit OK. Okay. So there we go. We got that nice screen there. Now, you know, there's a couple things that we can do here. First off, I want you to notice how that is not quite in the center. And the reason it's not quite in the center is because this is starting at 400. Okay, it really needs to start at 400 minus half of the width of the net, right? So if we make it 400 minus half the width of the net, then that would be 395, right? 395, and then we'll leave the others up there. We'll hit run module, hit OK, and there it's scooched over just a little bit to the side. Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to put in one other command, and that is basically this. We are going to put a time.sleep 0.01, okay, because we are basically inside a loop, which basically means, okay, I'm going to say, okay, the game is running, and then we're going to do all this stuff, and then we're going to come back up here and do this again. So we're doing this so fast, you know, you don't really notice it, but we don't really need to be updating this screen all the time during that. So I put this time.sleep in here just to slow things down just a little bit. So we're going to run the module. You probably won't see anything really different in it, but it'll make a little bit more sense later when we got stuff moving around. Actually, when we got stuff moving around, if you change how much it's sleeping, you know, things will go faster or slower, you know. So anyway, all right. I think that does it for Pong 3. And we'll go ahead and start this thing back up on Pong 4 in just a few minutes. All right, see you, and looking forward to it. Bye.